continue with so that's all done for layout world. So let's go back to Java world. All we do is to design a view or set it clickable, set a response, but we have to add a logic to all the buttons, to all the views. So we go to our main activity. So onCreate method is called by the system when the system creates this activity. Then if we want to use any component inside the main activity, we have to find it, then convert the design to a Java object. So let's see the left button, this one, let's call it just orange button. Orange button equal to find view by ID. So we have to give an ID to this button. Then we have to go to layout file, find this button, then ID, Android ID plus ID. So it's on main activity. Then come on. Is a title. What happened to my computer? Button. Then orange. So I put so many keywords here because do you remember any view has to use the unique ID in the system. Then it's r.id. Man. Then it's title button dot. The system cannot find this resource because I don't know why my computer is running very slowly here. So every time you add a new ID or add a new things to the system, the IDE have to compile the resource folder here to R because in Java language, so everything is an object. So the whole folder will compile to R. Then
each time that you call something?
Each time you add a thing to the resource folder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why it can find inside the R. But if you have some, I'm not sure which part. So let's run it again to compile again. So it's auto compile all this folder to R. So after you add an ID or add a file inside the resource folder, then you can find it in a Java world. There are two separate worlds. So the Java is object oriented. Then so everything you want to use it in Java, you have to convert to a Java object. Let's define button first. Yeah, so that's come out because it recompile it, then find the button ID. So by use this ID, so this ID should be inside the activity main XML file. In the main activity, you can only find an ID inside this file. You cannot access others' activity file. Then, so for Windows, it's Alt加 Enter, Alt and plus Enter, and for Mac, it's Option plus Enter. So if you have arrow, for any time you have arrow, just use Option or Alt plus Enter, then create field button. So that's a thing to speed up your tab. Button, then that's a button we defined of the orange button. So
Can you go to the activity name?
just add an ID.
Okay.
Then, so okay, we do the same thing for the other button. So add an ID.
Do you do it for the relative layout as well? Or is relative layout different?
So currently we just do it for button. So you don't need to worry about other things. Just focus on the current function. Button. Then we add a main. Then it's a title. Pick button. So add this button, then find it again, do it again, pick button equal to find view by ID, i.id, then to be safe, you can copy the ID and just paste it here. If you cannot find it, that means the compiler. What happened to my compiler?
Is the org button for the demo button?
It's for a picture button.
The org button is for the first button. The picture button is for
So let's have a 5 minutes rest because my compiler will not automatically compile the resource folder. So I need to restart my computer.
So normally it does.
Okay, let's try again. So we go to the pick button, then use autocorrection to create a field for the button. So that's for the pick button. Then after we got a button here in the Java world, we can set a OnClickListener for the button. So for example, set OnClickListener. Then when you go to there, you can see it's need a parameter. It's a click listener, so we can create a new click listener here. New click listener. Then the IDE will create the constructor for the OnClickListener for you. So you just need to do the logic inside the OnClickListener and the OnClick method. So we put a toast. Okay, so the IDE, the context text is still shows by the IDE, not by. So inside, I'll show you inside the OnClickListener. So the logic is when user click the button, we want to pop out the suggestion or a notification. So for a little notification, we use toast, then dodge. The method is called make text. Then the first parameter is the current context. Activity is extended from context. So the first one should be main activity. Then that's the first parameter. The second parameter is the content, the words we want to pop out. We put orange button. Then the third parameter is the duration about the notification. So we usually use 2 time period. It's a long time period or short time period. So it's a static parameter variable about the toast. So we choose length short, then show it.
So the context is the class that we currently.
Yeah, because activity is extended from context class. So a quick question about the Java concept. Why I use main_activity.this? Why I use main_activity.this? If I use this, why this arrow here? But so if I use toast dot make context this and hello dot toast dot for dot show, why it works here? Yeah, because this is inside the OnClickListener, then this is also a class. So inside this class, you cannot. This means the OnClickListener. So the OnClickListener is not a context. So you have to main_activity.this means the context is this, the current activity. So that's the difference between inside the class and inside the activity. So if you click the button, you can see the toast pop out. So that's one way to set the OnClickListener. Then, so let's change it to pick. So change this OnClickListener to the pick button because I want to set the orange button to a back. So that's a picture button. Then the other way to set the OnClickListener for a button is inside the layout file. So go to our, so now before we do that, make sure you change the OnClickListener to the pick button, not the orange button. Then let's find out the orange button. So now you don't need to the ID to set OnClickListener because we can just use onClick, then we call it back, onBack. Okay, so copy this words to back to the main activity. Then create a new method. It must be public and it must be void, and the same words with the words inside the button. Then parameter must be view. and v, then toast. So that error disappear. Now, okay, the IDE becomes smarter if you press Command or Control and left click it. It will directly go to the method you defined in the Java. But in the old IDE, it will not do that. So this method is not suggested to do in your project, because if you do manage this OnClickListener, is the logic is chaos. So usually I said this is faster than this type OnClickListener, so it do less code. So, but I usually do it like the fixed action, like back or some functions. So like go a drawer slide inside the screen. So currently the only thing I want to set for it for is the back. So it's a back button. Then we run.
So those two things do the same thing?
Yeah, the two ways to do the same thing. So this one thing is set OnClickListener. The other thing is in the layout file, you just use the function name, the method name. You have to careful about it's exactly the same function name, and here you have to be public, you have to be void. Yeah, and exactly the same method name, and the parameter must be view. So this is all the necessary things you have to set for the button. So the other way is set OnClickListener.
If I put that with error where it says context, yeah, I've got an error context. Are you using main activity documents or are you just using main activity documents?
Did you type context?
Yeah.
So that's why I suggest you to follow me closely. Don't talk. Don't just negotiate. Then just chat with each other. Just look at the screen. So I emphasize that part. So the ID. If you didn't follow me the last step, so you cannot follow the next step. The toast, the context is not typed here. So the first parameter is main activity dot this. After you do that, IDE will show you that's the context. Okay. So that's two ways to set a listener for a button. And we do have two other buttons, demo and work. So if you want switch the button like this one, so currently this button is red. This is red. Then if you click work, then work change to red. The demo to recover back to black. Then can switch between red and black. So to make the logic clear, we usually create two listeners. So this is just directly create a new OnClickListener inside the OnClickListener as a parameter. So to make the logic clear, we can create private new the class. So we have to need listener is demo listener equal to new OnClickListener. listener. Okay, so okay, let me do that. So let's use the same way to find the other two buttons, demo button and work button. So what's the first thing if you want to find a button to and import to the Java? Yes. So we go to toolbar, then add ID for demo and work ID, then name, then to, then demo. Also add ID for the work. So that's the two ID we add for the demo button and the work button. So we use the same way to find these two buttons. Demo button equal to find view by ID dot r dot ID dot demo. Then the work button equal to find view by ID or dot ID dot work. So then create a field button. Then work. So we set OnClickListener for the demo button and also for the work button. Demo just set OnClickListener, new OnClickListener, then work button. Just set OnClickListener, new OnClickListener. And when the demo button was clicked, so we have to set this button to red color. So add color, set text color. color. Color dot. Then we also have to set work button to black. Then after that, if we click the work button, so it will reverse the color of demo button. So demo button become to black and work button become red. So the question is about the logic. If I do that, so I missed one part. So what's the part I missed? So we have to set a default color for the work button, because when user open the activity, it shows the demo is the default button. So we have to, after we get the button, the demo button, we can set the default color, set text color, and color dot black. Oh, the default is red. Demo. So after you finish this logic, then we can see if we click the button, then the user will know which one is clicked.